Hello and welcome back to the channel. We are home from our friend's trip. We've been home for probably, by the time you guys are watching this, about 2 weeks. So we got home on Sunday the 7th of September. We took a few days to adjust getting back from the trip. It was a long flight home. And it was a pretty big trip between the race and Disneyland Paris and exploring Paris, as you saw in my videos. It was a big trip, so a couple of days to just rest, recoup, recover, actually let the body realize what we did and, you know, just recover from that huge effort, and then back to work. And now, by the time you guys are watching this, we actually have gone back and done a full week of training. So I will take you along, show you a few snippets of that week, but I just wanted to start by debriefing our UTMB CCC. We arrived in Chamonix on Monday the 25th of September. The race was Friday the 29th of September. So we got there about 4 days before the race, which just gave us, for me, it was enough time to sort of explore the town a little bit. Oh my gosh, the town was stunning. If I could move to Chamonix tomorrow, my soul is there. The scenery, the houses, the shops, like, oh my gosh, I was in my element. It was beautiful. The mountains, like, to be able to just go out and hike those mountains like on a regular basis, yeah, it was good. But yeah, so we did some exploring, did some shopping. As you saw, I got myself a new pair of shoes. And then the race started at 9:30 Friday the 29th of September. So race morning, we wake up, we had to catch a bus, so there was no driving to the start location, and I actually apologize in advance if I pronounce any of these names wrong. I'm not very good at my French, Italian pronunciations, but we had to catch the runner shuttle bus from Les Houches, which is where we were staying, to Cumaea, which is in Italy, which is where the race started. So we were on the 6 a.m. shuttle. It was probably about an hour-ish trip. So Les Houches to Cumaea, got there about 7, maybe 7:30. Got off the bus and then went and had a coffee, and just sort of took in the moment and get ready for what we were about to do. And yeah, come 9:30, well, a little bit before 9:30, obviously, we went to the starting location where the race was going to start. We got into our designated sections. I was actually in section number 3, so my section was the last to start. So we were standing there for quite a bit longer than, you know, sections 1, because they started at 9, section 2 started at 9:15, section 3 started at 9:30. So 3, 2, 1, buzzer goes, and we take off and we run through the town of Cumaea. And it was stunning. There were people just lining the streets, the buildings, like, it was so Italian. It was so beautiful. And we basically went straight into our first climb. So ran for maybe a kilometer and then, yeah, straight up the mountain. The first climb, it was very bottlenecked. You know, we got to the base of the mountain. It was a single track up the climb, as you saw in the video if you watched my race vlog. And so it took a while. Like, I think I was probably standing at the base of the mountain for a solid maybe 15 minutes waiting for just people to get going up the mountain. But once we got into our little, you know, conga line, as I guess you could call it, we just worked our way up the mountain. It was probably about a 2 to 3 hour climb up the mountain. I believe, let me just get it up. So climb 1 took us up to 2,541 meters altitude level, and it was 1,000 1,400 meters of gain in about 9.5 kilometers. So it was a solid climb. It was just long, slow, grindy, probably, which actually suited me well for the first climb. It did mean I didn't go out too hot, because you couldn't pass anyone on this climb, and if you did try to pass someone, it's a bit of a dick move because everyone's in the same boat, So we just worked our way up the mountain, got to the top, and then we had a nice sort of downhill for 4.2k to the first aid station. So we had about a 600 meter descent down to the first aid station. Now, I felt my climb was really good. The descents, there was a lot of like slip rock. So it did make coming down there a little bit slower for me, because I didn't want to fall, especially, before the first aid station. And I hadn't really done much training on sort of slick rock type terrain, but we got there, got to the first aid station. My goal for the first aid station was to just in and out, but I really needed to go to the bathroom, and there was one bathroom. So there was a single line to the bathroom. Took me about 15 minutes to be able to get to the bathroom, but I knew if I didn't go then I would regret it as soon as I took off. So I waited the 15 minutes, went to the bathroom, so probably all up spent 20 minutes in this aid station, longer than I wanted, but to be comfortable in the next section of the race, it was worth it. So from there, from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2, we just had a nice about 13, give or take, kilometers of undulating trail. Smooth trail. We had Mont Blanc on our left, which was absolutely stunning to run and just look at. Whenever my legs felt like stopping, I was like, no, like look at that, like just keep going, you get to see more of that. So that was very, very good. It was a very runnable, nice section, and that section actually put me in quite a good position time-wise. I made up a little bit of time that I lost by going down the slick rock in the first section, so that was good. Came into checkpoint 2, probably about 2 hours ahead of my goal pacing time, so I was really happy with that. Had a quick aid station stop there, probably like maybe 15 minutes, which was good. And then we went into climb number 2. So climb number 2 was technically like the second biggest climb of the day. Wasn't necessarily the hardest climb though. But so we basically had from the start, from checkpoint 2 to the top of the climb was about 5k. And in that 5k, we hit about 460 meters vert. So nice and steep, climbed our way up, and then we had a nice descent all the way back down to checkpoint number 3. So checkpoint 3, that was our basically 41 kilometer mark. That was at La Folie. Again, I'm sorry, my pronunciation isn't exactly correct. But yeah, again, quick aid station stop. I was actually lucky enough to see Mum and Kurg at that aid station, even though it was a non-crewed checkpoint. They were still able to catch the bus there and be there on the sideline. So that was really nice to be able to see them there, gave me a little bit of perkiness, because I knew then checkpoint 4, which was our next checkpoint, was the first crewed aid station. So was able to see them there. So just had another 20k and would actually get some help at the aid station, which was good. So from checkpoint 3 to checkpoint 4 was about a 14 kilometer section, and we had about 500 meters of gain in that section. So not a huge section, quite a big downhill section. We actually had about, let me just tell you, about 700 meters descent to about 500 meters gain. So it was a much more downhill section and uphill, but even so, the uphill, it wasn't too bad. It was a little bit spicy, but we got through it. We got to checkpoint 4, and which was Champagne Lac, and I actually beat Mum and Kurg to that checkpoint. So I got to the checkpoint, called them to see where they were, and they're like, oh, we're not there yet. Which made me feel good because it made me feel I was actually faster than what they were predicting me to be. So that was nice. Got into that checkpoint, started to refill my own stuff because obviously they weren't there. I didn't want to spend too much time there. And met up with Mum and Kirk, got everything going. That's where I did actually start to have some rice, some food, some rice and some Coca-Cola. Because at that checkpoint, we were about 56 kilometers in. So we hit the halfway mark and we were, as I sort of said, on the home stretch, even though we were far from the end. But checkpoint 4, off we go. And then it was gonna be about a 16 kilometer section until we saw them again. And we were heading into the night. So it did start to get very cold. When we were at the top of the mountain prior to checkpoint 4, going from Italy, crossing the border to Switzerland, as again you saw in the video, if you watched it, it was very, very windy, very, very cold. So I knew the night was gonna be cold. I made the decision to put my fleece on and my rain jacket because it did actually start to get rainy. But once I left the checkpoint, probably about 15 minutes after leaving the checkpoint, we were going into quite a decent climb. So I actually decided to take my fleece off and sew it back in my bag and just keep the rain jacket on, because I do tend to like overheat if I have too much on when I'm climbing up. So I didn't want to have to stop in the middle of a climb to de-layer. I'd rather do it at the start, be cold for a little bit, but then I know I'm gonna warm up as soon as I start climbing. So got that section, got to checkpoint 5, which was Trient. Again, that was a crude aid station. Got in there, same sort of thing. Had some rice, had some Coke, quick refuel. Kirk refilled my water, refilled my electrolytes. By this point, we were about 70 kilometers from the start. So we only had 30 kilometers to go. And I tell you, from checkpoint 4 onwards, when I say it was technical, I mean it was technical. It was so different from the first 50K of the race. The terrain, it was rocks, it was pure rocks. There was no smooth trail. It was rocks up, it was rocks down. The parts of the trail that did happen to be smooth were mud. Because it was raining, the trail turned to mud. So the climb up to Trient, even though technically it wasn't the biggest climb of the race, it felt like one of the hardest. It was steep, so we basically gained about 685 meters of vert over 3.5 kilometers. So it was a short climb, but it was steep. It was rocky and it was muddy. So you're trying to climb up the climb, you take a step and your foot just slides straight back down to where you were, which was quite frustrating. But everyone was in the same boat and we just head down, grinded our way through, and we got to the top. So left checkpoint 5, I was feeling good, but the issue was I don't think my stomach was used to being at that much altitude for such a long time. So basically from checkpoint 4, which was Champagne Lac, my body just decided it did not want to intake any more fuel on course. It was barely stomaching water. So I loaded my vest up with the fuel, although I didn't actually need to change any of the fuel because I didn't eat anything from checkpoint 4. Took it with me in case, things turned around. But yeah, basically from checkpoint 4 onwards, fueling on course was a no-go. Like my stomach just wasn't handling it. Basically drunk next to no water again because it was making me feel like wanting to just spew it back up. So I made sure when I got into the aid station, I just downed a whole heap of plain rice, some Coke, and that thankfully was enough to keep me going. We came into checkpoint 6, which was at Valacine, and this was our last crude checkpoint and our second last checkpoint before the end. So just really wanted to be in and out for this one. I was sick of spending time in the checkpoints. not really good at being fast in checkpoints. So that's something I have realized I really, really need to work on, especially if I decide to do another race. But we were at Valacine for probably 20 minutes, some rice, some Coke, refilled, and then off we went. So we had a 12-kilometer section from Valacine to checkpoint 7. That included a few climbs, but it did have the last big climb of the course in there. So we climbed in about 5 kilometers. We did about 450 meters of vert. So again, these climbs were short, but they were steep. And when they're steep, they just feel like they go forever. So climb, all the way up to La Flageur. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Which was checkpoint 7. So checkpoint 7 was literally, it was just in and out, because once you hit checkpoint 7, you were basically done. You had 7 kilometers of pure downhill, and even though downhill, you're like, yes, it's downhill, it was rocky. It wasn't like your beautiful, smooth downhill trail. You had to climb down, essentially. And by that point, my feet were in agony from just running constantly on rocks. They just weren't used to being on rocky terrain for that long, like that sort of rocky terrain. And I really just wanted to be done. I wanted to be off this technical trail. So it did take me a little bit to get down, but we got down, we finished the race in 24 hours, and I was so proud of myself. I was, basically when we hit the middle checkpoint, checkpoint 4 at Champagne-Lac, which was the halfway point, I was actually on track to PB my 100 kilometer time, which was about 20 hours and 22 hours, 30 something minutes. So I was tracking to actually be able to maybe get a 21 hour, maybe just under 22 hour 100K time. However, with the change of course to how technical the second half of the course was, that sort of just became unachievable for me. I did lots of training on technical terrain like the pyramid here, which you guys would have seen if you did watch the series. But when you're doing that sort of technical terrain after already running 50K and through the night, it's just, for me, I'm not great at that. So it did slow me down a little bit. But regardless of the end time, my whole and sole goal was to finish the race, and I did that. And I finished the race in good spirits. I came out of the race, I did not have a single blister. And when I say not a single blister, I genuinely mean it. Not a single blister. I woke up at 4 a.m. the next day to catch a bus to, or a train. We went to Disneyland Paris. I spent the next 3 days walking around Disneyland Paris from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night, and then went and explored Paris for 3 days after that, sightseeing and everything. So I don't know if it's the fact that I didn't let my body feel sore because I didn't laze around and sort of relax. It was just go after the race. But the fact that I could do that after the race just showed that how I feel prepared that my body was for this race, which makes me feel very good and very positive, for any future races that come up. It means that, I'm getting better, my body is getting stronger at ultra running, and we're fitter, we're able to recover faster, and yeah, I was absolutely beyond stoked. Would I go back? That's a question that I have been tossing around in my head now for the last 2 weeks. 100% I would go back to Chamonix. I would love to go back with Troy and with Kurg for a hiking trip. I would love for them to hike Mont Blanc, do Tour de Mont Blanc as a hiking trip over maybe 5 to 10 days. Prior to the race, being around that atmosphere in the element. I did make the comment that I would put my name in the lottery for the UTMB, so the 160 kilometer race. However, when I finished the race and my mum asked me, would you do it again? My answer was, hell no. I never, ever, ever want to run the second half of that course again. And I have stuck by that for a little bit. However, I did make a comment the other day that, oh, you know what? I'll just put my name in the lottery and see what happens. So I don't know if I will go back or not. I do stand by the statement that I never want to run the second half of that course again because I absolutely hated it. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds? So I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but I am saying I would definitely like to go back to Chamonix outside of UTMB time. So we shall see. So we have spent this week getting back into some training, getting back into some running, into some gym. What is next? Haven't made a 100% clear-cut decision yet, although I do have something in mind. So we'll just see how the next week or two sort of play out, how the body recovers, all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I'll take you through a week's little bit of training, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little brief recap of my race. If you have any questions regarding the race, regarding the travel, regarding Chamonix, anything, pop them in the comments below and I will get back to you. Otherwise, let's go through some training. This morning we're just making some breakfast. So I've got my protein oats, which I'm just about to put in the microwave. I've got my greens. I'm making my chai latte. We've got our yogurt, blueberries, and our caramel protein, which goes in our oats. So let's make this. Hello and welcome back. We just finished a easy 10k run. My initial goal when I went out for this run was just an easy 40 minutes. This is like kind of my first week back training, so I'm just easing back into it. I don't actually have a specific program this week, so I'm just going by what feels good, just getting back the body moving. So I've already done 2 on Tuesday, and yesterday being Thursday, I did like an easy 30 minutes with a 10-minute cool down walk. My goal today was to go out and do an easy 40 minutes. I was feeling pretty good though, so I did actually push it out to 60. So easy 60 minutes. At the 60-minute mark, I was about 300 meters off hitting the 10K. So I did just then keep going till I hit the 10K. So we had 10 kilometers with a moving time of 1 hour and 2 minutes and 50 seconds, so 1 hour, 3 minutes. Basically, an average pace of 6:17 and an average heart rate of 136. So pretty good for a 60-minute run, third run back since CCC. So pretty keen to see how we recover from this. I have been focusing a lot on recovery this week as well, like lots of sauntering, lots of stretching, lots of rolling. So I probably will jump down now and do a stretch and a roll. And yeah, going on the weekend?
Hello and welcome to Thursday. We are currently heading to the place where I'm going to do my run today. So today on the menu we have a 10k easy run followed by 5, 20 or 30 second, I have to double check that, but we'll just say 30 seconds for now. 5 by 30 second hill sprints with a little walk down recovery in between. So we do the hill sprints at the end of the easy 10k. So we're gonna drive to where the hill is and then we'll run 10k, like we'll run 5k out, 5k back, and then finish off with the hill sprints, and we'll come home and do a 20-minute sauna, and that will be our session. So I'll take you along for the session. We'll get a little bit of footage and yeah, see how we go. All right, we are here at our starting location for our run. So we're gonna go 5k out, 5k back, and then we're gonna head up that way, which I'll show you in a minute, for our hill sprints at the end. We do a little bit of a fit check. So I have my Gymshark sports bra. This is one of my favorite sports bras. It's super, super cute. We have our Win Republic 4-inch running shorts. We are wearing our Asics Super Blast 2s. I have my Garmin and my Whoop. I'm wearing my new Oakley Sutro sunnies. Now they're a Sutro something, I actually can't remember exactly what line of Sutro they are, but I quite like them. Gold. We have our shocks because we're going to listen to some music or a podcast or something like that. So let's get running. Alrighty, we are back at the car. Easy 10km done, plus our 5 by 20 second efforts. So the brief was not sprints, just efforts, although it's been a while since I've done, you know, sort of faster efforts like that. So to a degree they felt like sprints, but not really. They were only 20 seconds. Hill wasn't super massive, but was good enough. Now, funny story, well actually really not funny at all. I was running down the street, 9 kilometers, 97 meters, so 30 meters from being done. 30 meters from being done. Running along, parked cars, some absolute wank of a person decides not to look before he reverses out as I'm right behind his car. Reversed straight into me. Luckily, wasn't hard, heard the bang when he hit me and stopped straight away. Gonna have a nice little bruise, egg on my arm where he hit me, and then he had the nerve to yell at me, give me the finger, drive off, and then come back and do a blocky just to yell at me and give me the finger again when he did not look before reversing. If I can tell ya, this is why I don't like running on the fucking road. Anyway, run done. Was actually a very good run all besides that. So we're gonna go home, we're gonna get changed and hit our 20-minute sauna session. So come along. We are back home and sitting in the sauna, as you can see. Gonna be in here for 20 minutes and then that is our day done. Gonna go upstairs and make some dinner, have an early night because I did get to bed a little bit later than I would like to have last night, so hopefully in bed before 8 o'clock tonight, have a good sleep and get ready for a big solid day of training tomorrow. So happy Thursday, and yeah.
All right, so we have a little bit of an exciting announcement to close out the end of this video. So I have chosen my next race. November 27th or November 28th, whatever that Friday is, we will be racing Kosciuszko 100 miler. So last year I used Kosciuszko, or I went to Ultra Trail Kosciuszko as my first 100 miler attempt, and I actually DNF'd. So since then I have completed a 100 miler. I completed the UTA 100 miler in May, and yeah, thought that it was only fitting to close out the year by heading back to Kosci and hopefully, fingers crossed, ticking off getting my redemption for the Kosci 100 miler. So as we close out the CCC YouTube series, we will now be venturing into our journey to Kosci 100 miler. So stay tuned, and I can't wait to take you along over the next 10 weeks of training as we prepare for that. I have spoken to my coach already about a goal, that I would like to achieve in that race, but yeah, we'll see how training goes, and leading up to it, I will keep you updated on all of that. So thank you for watching my journey to CCC, and I hope you enjoy this next phase of my journey and my YouTube channel.